My parents told me there wasn't enough space for me at the annual family retreat. When I found out the real reason they didn't want me there, I discovered a family secret that shattered everything I thought I knew about them. What I uncovered that weekend changed my relationship with my family forever. I'm Sofia Martinez, I'm 30 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I knew exactly where I stood in my family. Turns out, I was wrong about pretty much everything. Let me paint you a picture of what the Crimson Creek family retreat means to the Martinez clan. Imagine if Norman Rockwell had painted a family vacation, but with more sunscreen, questionable potato salad, and at least one uncle who brings a guitar nobody asked for. That's our annual summer tradition at Pine Valley Lodge. My great-grandmother, Esperanza Martinez, started this tradition back in 1987. She was this tiny woman with hands like steel and a voice that could carry across 3 counties when she was calling you in for dinner. Esperanza believed that family was everything, and that once a year, no matter what drama was happening, no matter who was fighting with whom, everyone needed to come together and remember they were blood. La familia es todo, she'd say, pointing that weathered finger at whoever looked like they might be thinking of skipping. Family is everything. The retreat happens every 3rd weekend in July at Pine Valley Lodge in the mountains outside Willowbrook. It's this collection of rustic cabins nestled around a pristine lake that looks like something out of a travel brochure. 6 cabins total, connected by these winding gravel paths that crunch under your feet and make you feel like you're at an upscale summer camp for adults. Each cabin has a name carved into a wooden sign hanging by the front door. There's Serenity, where my grandparents always stay because it has the best view of the lake. Adventure is where the cousins with kids usually end up because it's closest to the playground. Harmony always goes to my Aunt Catalina and Uncle Roberto because they've been married 43 years and still hold hands during the evening campfires. Then there's Tranquility, Bliss, and Haven. The names are a little cheesy, sure, but after 30 years of this tradition, they feel like home. I've been going since I was born, literally. My mom tells this story about how I was only 3 months old during my first retreat, and my great-grandmother insisted on carrying me around the entire weekend, introducing me to every squirrel and butterfly like I was going to remember any of it. There are photo albums spanning 3 decades of these retreats, me as a toddler, covered head to toe in lake mud, grinning like I'd discovered buried treasure, me at 8, attempting to fish with my cousin Diego while my uncle Mateo pretended to be scared of the tiny sunfish we kept catching and throwing back. Me at 16, rolling my eyes at the mandatory family group photo but secretly loving every minute of it. The retreat has its rhythm, its traditions within traditions. Friday night is always the rival barbecue, where Uncle Mateo grills enough meat to feed a small army while Aunt Catalina makes her famous tres leches cake that everyone pretends they're too full for but somehow disappears completely. Saturday morning is the Great Lake Adventure, which sounds more exciting than it actually is, really. It's just everyone who wants to participate taking canoes and kayaks out on the lake for a few hours. The kids love it. The adults mostly use it as an excuse to day drink mimosas while pretending to fish. Saturday afternoon is what we call choose your own adventure time. Some people nap. Some people hike the trails that wind up into the mountains behind the lodge. The teenagers usually congregate at the fire pit and spend hours trying to perfect the art of s'mores making while complaining about having no cell service. Saturday night is the talent show. And yes, I know how that sounds, but hear me out. It's not as cringy as you might think. Well, okay, it's exactly as cringy as you think, but in the best possible way. Uncle Esteban does the same magic tricks he's been perfecting since the Clinton administration. My cousin Valentina plays guitar and sings, and she's actually gotten really good over the years. The kids usually perform some elaborate dance they've been choreographing all weekend. Sunday morning is the family meeting, which sounds official but is really just everyone sitting around the main lodge's living room, drinking coffee and planning next year's retreat while great-grandmother Esperanza holds court from her favorite armchair, making pronouncements about who needs to bring what and who needs to find themselves a nice person to settle down with before next summer. Sunday afternoon is pack up and goodbye, which always takes 3 times longer than it should because nobody wants to be the first to leave. And there are always tearful hugs and promises to call more often that everyone knows they won't keep, but mean sincerely in the moment. This rhythm has been the heartbeat of my summers for as long as I can remember. I've brought boyfriends to this retreat. I brought my college roommate one year when she had nowhere else to go during summer break. I've hidden here when life got overwhelming, used it as a reset button when everything else felt chaotic. The retreat is where I learned to swim, in that lake that's probably too cold for swimming but nobody cares. It's where I had my first kiss, behind the supply shed with Tommy Chen from my high school biology class, who I'd convinced my parents to let me invite the summer I turned 16. It's where I cried when my college boyfriend broke up with me via text message, and where my cousin Elena held me while I ugly sobbed into a s'more and declared that all men were garbage. It's where I celebrated getting my first real job, my first apartment, my first grown-up car that I'd bought all by myself. More importantly, it's where my family feels like a family instead of just a collection of people who happen to share DNA and gather for obligatory holiday dinners. Don't get me wrong. We're not perfect. The Martinez family has its share of drama, old grudges, and weird dynamics. Uncle Mateo and Uncle Roberto haven't spoken directly to each other since 2018 over some business disagreement that nobody else understands. So they communicate through their wives like they're in middle school. Cousin Carmen has been taking a break from her husband for 4 years now, but she still brings him to family events and they act like nothing's wrong. Great-grandmother Esperanza has strong opinions about everything and isn't shy about sharing them. She once spent an entire retreat lecturing my cousin Miguel about his irresponsible career choice of becoming a professional musician instead of a doctor or lawyer like she'd hoped. But here's the thing about the retreat, it's neutral ground. Whatever's happening in our regular lives, whatever fights or disagreements or disappointments we're carrying, they get set aside for this weekend. It's like an unspoken rule. You can be mad at someone 51 weeks out of the year, but during retreat weekend, you sit next to them at the campfire and you pass them the marshmallows. That's why my mother's phone call hit me like a physical blow. It was a Tuesday evening in late June. I was at home in my apartment in Riverside Heights, a cozy one-bedroom place I'd finally managed to afford after years of having roommates and living in questionable neighborhoods. I was making dinner, nothing fancy, just some pasta with vegetables, and my phone rang. Mom's contact photo filled the screen. It's this picture of her from last year's retreat, laughing at something my dad had said while she's holding my baby cousin Lucas. She looks genuinely happy in it, relaxed in a way she rarely is during regular life when she's stressed about work or worried about money or dealing with whatever family crisis is currently happening. "Hey, Mom," I answered, wedging the phone between my shoulder and ear so I could keep stirring the pasta. "What's up?" "Hi, Mija," she said, but something in her voice was off. Too bright. Too cheerful, like she was trying to sell me something. "How was your day?" We chatted for a few minutes about normal stuff. My job at the marketing firm downtown, where I've been working as a senior account coordinator for the past 2 years. Her job at the elementary school, where she's been a third-grade teacher for longer than I've been alive. Dad's ongoing battle with the sprinkler system in their backyard. Then she cleared her throat, and I knew something was coming. "So, honey, I wanted to talk to you about the retreat this year." I immediately perked up. "Oh, good. I was going to call you this week to coordinate. I already put in for the time off, and I was thinking maybe this year I could help Aunt Catalina with the cooking. I've been practicing this amazing recipe for actually, Mija, that's what I wanted to discuss. We have a bit of a situation this year." The way she said situation made my stomach tighten. In my family, situations are never good. Situations are when someone loses their job or gets divorced or ends up in the hospital. What kind of situation? Well, it's about the cabin arrangements. We're having some space issues. I frowned, turning down the heat under my pasta. Space issues? What do you mean? Another pause. Longer this time. In that pause, I heard something I'd never heard from my mother before when it came to the retreat: hesitation. Your cousin Ricardo is bringing his new fiancée, Isabella, and her 2 kids from her previous marriage, and Uncle Roberto's son Fernando is bringing his wife and their new baby. And Aunt Catalina's daughter Carmen decided she wants to bring her kids this year, even though she usually leaves them with their father. I was trying to do the math in my head. Yes, that was more people than usual, but we dealt with space crunches before. People doubled up, kids slept in sleeping bags. We made it work because that's what families do. Okay, I said slowly, so we'll figure it out. Maybe I can room with Elena. Or I can take the couch in the main lodge, or Sophia, the way she said my name stopped me mid-sentence. It was the tone she'd used when I was a kid and she was about to deliver news I wasn't going to like. We think it might be better if you set this one out, just this year. The wooden spoon I was holding dropped into the pot with a splash. I'm sorry, what? It's just that with all the new people and the kids, and trying to accommodate everyone, there really isn't space. And we thought, since you're single and don't have kids, it might be easier for you to skip this year. Just this once. I felt like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart with an icy fist. Mom, are you seriously telling me that I can't come to the family retreat? The retreat I've been going to my entire life, the retreat I've never missed. It's not that you can't come, Mija. It's just that this year is complicated, and no. I turned off the stove completely and gripped the phone tighter. No, this is insane. I've been going to this retreat since before I could walk. I've never missed one. Not when I had pneumonia. Not when I was broke and had to eat ramen for a month to afford the gas money to get there. Not ever. I know, honey, but sometimes circumstances. What circumstances? The cabins are the same size they've always been. We've had more people before. Remember 2019 when cousin Mario brought his entire soccer team? Remember 2021 when we had that surprise baby boom and there were literally infants everywhere? We made it work then. This is different. How is this different? But she couldn't give me an answer that made sense. She kept talking in circles about space and logistics and how it would just be easier this way, just this once, and we'd make it up to me. Make it up to me how? I asked. Mom. This isn't a missed dinner or a canceled movie. This is the family retreat. This is the most important weekend of our year. I know you're disappointed. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Mom, I'm not disappointed. I'm devastated and confused, and honestly, I'm starting to feel like there's something you're not telling me. Another pause. This one stretched so long I thought maybe the call had dropped. There's nothing I'm not telling you, Sophia. It's just a difficult year for planning, and we had to make some hard choices. And I was the hard choice you made. I was the person you decided was expendable. That's not what this is. Then what is it? Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like my entire family got together and decided that I was the least important person in it. Sophia, you're being dramatic. And there it was, the phrase that had been used to dismiss my feelings my entire life. Anytime I got upset about something, anytime I questioned a decision that affected me, I was being dramatic. You know what, Mom, maybe I am being dramatic. Maybe it's dramatic to be hurt when your family tells you there's no room for you. Maybe it's dramatic to feel betrayed when the people who raised you to believe that family comes first suddenly decide you're the exception to that rule. I could hear her sighing on the other end of the line. We'll plan something else, Mija. Just us. A nice weekend trip. Maybe to that bed and breakfast you liked in Millbrook. That's not the same thing. And you know it. I know you're upset right now, but you'll understand when you've had some time to think about it. No, Mom, I don't think I will. And with that, I hung up. I stood in my kitchen, staring at my phone, waiting for it to ring again, waiting for her to call back and say she'd made a mistake, that of course there was room for me, that she'd figure something out because that's what families do. The phone didn't ring. I looked at my pasta, which had gotten cold and unappetizing. I looked at my calendar on the refrigerator, where I'd already circled the retreat weekend in red marker and written family time, and excited capitals. I thought about the conversation I'd had with my boss just that afternoon, where I'd reminded her that I'd be out of office that weekend for my family's annual tradition. I thought about the new hiking boots I'd bought specifically for the mountain trails around Pine Valley Lodge. I thought about the playlist I'd been curating for the car ride, full of songs that would get me pumped for 3 days of chaos and laughter with the people I loved most. And then I thought about my great-grandmother Esperanza, who was now 87 and whose health had been declining steadily over the past year. This might be her last retreat. This might be the last time I'd see her holding court in that armchair, dispensing wisdom and unsolicited advice to anyone within earshot. And I was going to miss it because there wasn't space for me. I picked up my phone and started scrolling through my contacts. I thought about calling my cousin Elena, who was my closest ally in the family and would probably tell me the truth about what was really going on. But then I realized that if Elena knew I was being excluded and hadn't warned me, that would hurt even worse. I thought about calling my dad, but Dad was loyal to Mom first, family second, and truth somewhere around third or fourth on his priority list. I thought about calling great-grandmother Esperanza directly, but the idea of explaining to her that I wouldn't be at the retreat because there wasn't room for me felt impossible. How do you tell the woman who founded a tradition based on the belief that family is everything that her family had decided? She was wrong. Instead, I did something I'd never done before in my 30 years of life. I decided to make my own plans. I opened my laptop and started researching vacation rentals near Pine Valley Lodge. If my family didn't want me at their retreat, fine. I'd have my own retreat. I'd rent a place nearby, and I'd have a wonderful, peaceful weekend doing exactly what I wanted to do without having to coordinate with anyone or compromise on anything. I'd show them that I didn't need their retreat to have a good time. What I didn't know, as I sat there angrily booking a cabin rental for that weekend, was that I was about to stumble onto the real reason my family didn't want me at the retreat. And that reason was going to change everything I thought I knew about the people I'd loved and trusted my entire life. The next morning, I woke up with that hollow feeling you get when something terrible happened the day before and for just a split second you forget about it. Then reality crashes back down. My family didn't want me at the retreat. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, staring at the confirmation email for Mountain View Escape, a cozy 2-bedroom cabin I'd rented about 15 minutes from Pine Valley Lodge. The photos showed a place with a wraparound deck, a hot tub, and a view that looked straight out of a postcard. It was actually nicer than the lodge cabins, and I'd be there all by myself. Fine, I said out loud to my empty apartment. If they want to exclude me, I'll have the best solo retreat of my life. But even as I said it, my chest felt tight with hurt. I called in sick to work, something I rarely did, and spent the day planning my revenge vacation. I researched hiking trails, made dinner reservations at the fanciest restaurant in Willowbrook, and even booked myself a spa appointment. I was going to post photos of my amazing solo weekend all over social media, and my family would see exactly what they were missing. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from my cousin Elena. Mom told me about the space situation. I'm so sorry, Seth. This is really messed up. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Did you know ahead of time 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again? Finally, no. I found out today when I asked Mom if you were staying in our cabin again this year. What did she say when you asked? That's the weird part. She got really uncomfortable and said it was complicated and that I should ask Tia Carmen instead of her. My Aunt Carmen was my mom's sister and usually the family organizer for these. Your cousin Ricardo is bringing his new fiancée, Isabella, and her 2 kids from her previous marriage, and Uncle Roberto's son Fernando is bringing his wife and their new baby. And Aunt Catalina's daughter Carmen decided she wants to bring her kids this year, even though she usually leaves them with their father. I was trying to do the math in my head. Yes, that was more people than usual, but we'd dealt with space crunches before. People doubled up, kids slept in sleeping bags. We made it work because that's what families do. Okay, I said slowly, so we'll figure it out. Maybe I can room with Elena. Or I can take the couch in the main lodge, or Sophia, the way she said my name stopped me mid-sentence. It was the tone she'd used when I was a kid and she was about to. Like yesterday, I walked into the room while Mom and Tia Carmen were on the phone, and they immediately stopped talking and changed the subject. And when I mentioned you not coming, they both got this look. What kind of look? Like they felt guilty but were trying not to show it. I felt my heart start to race. This wasn't just about logistics or space. Something else was happening. Alana, I need you to do me a favor. Anything. I rented a cabin near the lodge for that weekend. I'm going anyway, but I need you to keep your ears open and let me know if you hear anything about why they really didn't want me there. Sophia, that's brilliant. Yes, absolutely. And honestly, I think you should come to some of the activities anyway. It's not like they can kick you out of a public lake. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Elena's words. Like, they're all in on some secret. What secret could my family possibly have that required keeping me away from the retreat? I'd never been the troublemaker in the family. I wasn't the one who started drama or caused problems. I was the reliable one. The one who remembered everyone's birthdays and organized group gifts for the grandparents. I was the one who helped plan these retreats, who made sure great-grandmother Esperanza had everything she needed, who mediated when cousins got into stupid arguments. Why would they want to keep me away? The more I thought about it, the more determined I became. I wasn't just going to have a solo retreat nearby. I was going to figure out what my family was hiding from me. And I had a feeling that whatever it was going to be bigger than just a space issue. Friday afternoon arrived, and I loaded my car with enough supplies for a weekend of luxury and investigation. I'd packed hiking gear, books, wine, and a pair of binoculars I'd borrowed from my neighbor for bird watching. As I drove toward the mountains, passing the familiar exit signs that had marked the route to family happiness for 30 years of my life, I felt a mixture of excitement and dread. I was about to find out why my family really didn't want me at the retreat. I just had no idea how much that truth was going to hurt.